Oh.
Okay, call this January the 8th council meeting work session to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Halter?
Here.
Ms. Hermes?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Metz?
Here.
And Ms. Walter?
Here.
How about me?
Mayor Moore, of course.
Because I don't want to be counted as absent.
Yeah,
So Yvonne, you're calling me right now.
I am, I am.
Okay,
Okay.
Yes.
I'm
Thank you.
here. We have a prayer by Maria Walter.
Lord, we ask you to send your spirit of servanthood upon all of us that gather here this evening to do your work for the benefit of all in our community. We ask you to bless our elected and appointed officials so they may deliberate with wisdom and act with courage. Bless the members of our community who come here to speak before council so they state their cause with honesty and humility. Lord, we ask you to bless us all, but especially tonight and these coming days, the family of the officer in Coleraine Township. Give them the courage to move forward, and that everything that we do here tonight will move you to welcome us one day into your kingdom as good and faithful servants. We ask this in the name of our brother Jesus. Amen. I bless allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we've got the organizational part of our first meeting in January. We have the election of President Pro Tem.
I will move, would like to nominate Melanie Hermes as the President Pro Tem.
Second.
Any others? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Or do we have to do it?
I don't see why it would need to be a roll call vote.
No.
I think a voice vote would be
Yeah.
sufficient.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yay.
You are in.
Thank you.
That's it. Okay, all right.
I would like to make a motion to elect Maria Walter Willard as Vice President Pro Tem.
Second.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have, the only thing I have is for appointment to well, the standing committees, there's no changes on the council committees, so everybody will have the same committee that we had. So we'll do the next change if there's an opening for a new member or after the election. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I know that Chip Berquist is waiting for one more to file the application.
Right.
And one has already filed. And for the, also for the Recreation Commission, one has filed, and the other one that we were waiting for is moving out of town.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I will have to look for somebody else.
And do you want to nominate Rob Howe to fill the appointments for Recreation Board and for the Waycross?
I
We'll
sure
do that
move,
tonight.
I sure move to appoint Robert Howell as both Recreation Commission member and a member of the Waycross Board.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor, is that W-O, or I'm sorry, H-O-W-E-L-L?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Pass that down.
Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, a motion to adopt the rules of council. And actually, I have a question. Didn't we do a first reading on the rules of council
We
at the
did,
last
at
meeting?
the last meeting, the last regular meeting, we had a first read of an ordinance. Because there is no legislation on the agenda this evening, I don't see why we can't adopt the rules of council as they stand and then pass the legislation to amend them.
At
in
the
end.
regular meeting?
Yeah,
Okay,
if that.
all right. Have a
It's fine.
motion to adopt the rules of council.
So
Second.
moved.
Okay. All those in favor, say
Glenn
aye.
made the motion, Maria seconded
You
it.
guys gotta slow down.
Simultaneously.
I know you're really excited.
Instant replay, you can actually hear the pause in between.
It was a nanosecond. Yeah.
You guys are so excited to get your names in minutes.
Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye if we didn't already.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
We're supposed to
All
be
right.
setting a better example.
Are you observing? It's usually not this quick and lively.
It's usually slow
It's a
and
good
boring.
day.
Right,
Because we had an audience.
yeah.
Kind of showing.
Okay, yeah.
I wonder if I could do 30 seconds real quick on the discussion items real quick.
Sure.
Just wanted to bring you all up to speed. Yvonne put out a one call just a few minutes ago, and this is an update on the police activity that we had all day in the village. It ended thankfully in residents on Carini Drive can now go home and sleep well.
They always do.
The township stopped a vehicle today at Lake Ridge and Winton coming into our jurisdiction. And as they stopped it, all three occupants bailed out and took off running. Two of them were rather quickly apprehended and one continued on in a northerly direction and ended up in a lot of our eastern neighborhoods. Throughout the day today, we had a lot of good calls from our residents who alerted us when they would see the show man. However, he would always dart back into the wood lines. Towards the, as daylight was waning, we set up a perimeter along with Springfield Township and the park rangers, and we were able to apprehend him in the rear of 822 Carini just a little bit before 6 o'clock. So these were, it turns out, I'm sure of at least the last suspect was a juvenile. He was 17. The others were either, right, 17, 18, 19, I'm not sure the exact ages. Cincinnati will be actually processing the stolen car, and Springfield Township handled all of the arrest paperwork. But I wanted everyone in our jurisdiction to know, because that's where all the cruisers were today, to try and find this suspect, but he is apprehended.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And he's probably lucky, because if he had spent the night in the woods,
He
he could
lost
have,
his shirt during the chase, so he had a little...
yeah.
And at what time this whole thing started?
Well, it started probably around 9:15
Wow.
this morning. So
I saw a
all
little,
day.
I saw movement going on, and I was moving
I
as
just
fast
finished
as
running and came
it
up
was
with-
happening, so I couldn't stop and ask. Okay.
Thank you.
He could have been in trouble with the coyotes. He'd spent the night out there.
Maybe that's how he lost his shirt.
Maybe that's how we, yeah.
All right. Discussion items, do you want to?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the golf course a little bit. I don't know if some of you probably had a chance to see your emails, but maybe not everybody.
I did not,
I was able to read it, but I wasn't able to print it.
There's not maybe. Okay, well, here comes
I don't
a
have
copy
it, yeah.
I got it.
for you, however many we need down there.
More
Not other ones.
Gallagher paper here.
Just to kind of bring you up to where
Does the chief need one?
Where it all is from my perspective with the golf course. At this point, we've appropriated $40,000 in the 2019 appropriation. We have an employee working on grounds care. We have a survey out right now. Responses due January 3rd. I checked right before I came up here. We now have 107 responses. So
Awesome.
every day it keeps going up. That's great
great.
news.
What's the
Maybe
response date, did you say? I'm sorry.
January 31st.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that could potentially provide some guidance as well on this topic as well as on other topics. In the Service and Rec committees, we've had some discussions about using a portion of that appropriation to look at like a long-term plan, specifically a schematic of what we might be able to do creatively with that property, knowing, of course, that our charter limits it to a park green space use only. We have previously discussed a business plan for the golf course. There were some, I attached it to the email. I didn't bring copies tonight though, because obviously it would need to be updated. But I just want to remind you that we had done that, meeting and talking with some professionals. So there is also interest on council now to hire a professional to market and run the golf course. And that's my reason for the two ads. One actually is for a position, and the other is more of an RFP asking for like creative ideas for programming. At this point, it's written for golf, but that I think is where I am really wanting to get input from council. So I am carrying this in the right direction. So I thought it'd be appropriate to give you 2 different drafts to react to. You don't have to react to them tonight, but if you could take a look at it and let me know which one seems appropriate, or, suggestions are welcome, please,
Okay.
on that topic.
So you want direction on whether to go for employee or or RFP for ideas?
Correct. Yes.
Any comments, questions?
Maybe,
now, or-
maybe delve into this in a little more depth, maybe at the retreat. Is that the plan?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we need direction sooner when,
Well,
Well,
that's true.
We can also have, entertain the thought in either at the commission meeting or in the committee meeting of recreation, either one of them, and then go to the retreat from that, if that would help Annie.
And the retreat is probably going to be, unless she's changed her mind, something towards the end of February,
Yeah.
before she gets everything together. Our finance person gets everything together.
so can we kind of firm up that date?
What is the
With
date
us.
for the retreat?
I'm gone the one of those weeks in February, so.
Are we looking at a Saturday or a Sunday?
I'm good at the second Saturday or the Sunday, the third, and I'm good also towards the end, 22nd, 23rd,
No,
24th.
I think it's going to have to be at least at the 23rd, nothing sooner than that.
Okay. I'm available the 23rd or the 24th.
Yeah.
I'm-
Yeah, let's,
I'm available on the 24th, so.
Yeah,
So,
so am I.
well, she said
Okay.
it was going to be done at the end of February. The 24th is the last possible weekend day.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm not available on the 24th. I am on the 23rd. Do you have a conflict on the 23rd? Or no?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
coming back from.
What about March 2nd?
March 2nd, I have a commitment.
What time?
What is it? I forget.
On March 2nd, I have a commitment.
How about the 3rd?
The 3rd, I'm free.
You know, I don't like it
March
going-
3rd, I'm
March
good.
3rd.
March 3rd, March 3rd, March 3rd, March 3rd.
What time are we meeting? I can bring a
It's
breakfast
Sunday,
casserole.
yeah. Okay, now we need to make sure Deb is available on the 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, yes,
yes,
or at least her numbers are.
or the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put in here question mark retreat then, still with the question mark though?
Yeah,
Okay.
until Yvonne confirms it with Deb. And then she can send everybody an email.
Okay,
And what time would we be thinking? I'm gonna,
from 9 to 1, 2?
Well,
We-
Melanie,
Last time we
since
did
you
it
were just
Sunday.
elected, the president of council, and this is a council retreat, I'm guessing you should be
You should
providing
be
the
the-
direction,
yeah.
the agenda, and the marching orders.
okay.
I'm just having the
We'll be
casserole.
meeting at 6:30 a.m.,
You know that's good with me.
9 a.m.
I can be here at 6:30.
We'll go for a walk
I'm
first, so Melanie
marking
can
my
get her
calendar
steps
from
in.
9 to 3.
9 to 3 is
So,
good.
It's fine.
if anyone has items they would like to bring to the retreat,
Let you know.
let me know.
Yeah.
I can't say that, I don't know why. And I will work with the mayor and the manager to
Yeah.
create an agenda.
Well, and we also had, Maria had a meeting with the superintendent of schools, and
Yes,
he
I would.
was
He would like to
Like
have
to
some
maybe-
time, and since I checked
to
with the
talk to
mayor,
us.
he told me he can have as little as a half an hour, as much as an hour, or in between 3/4 of an hour.
For,
He wants to touch base with the council, he wants to touch base with the plans that they have, education plans, et cetera. And he welcomes that opportunity to be a part of.
If everybody is okay with that, I'd say let's give him a half hour, something like that.
Half an hour is good. Now, I need to get the confirmation of that date for Deb before I send an email, okay?
Yeah.
So back to this description, is that going to be altered or affected at all by the survey results? Would be put any of that into the
It
Could
could.
be.
Okay.
Could be.
I'm just going to put it out there that if we're talking about the golf course in March, we're talking too late.
Well,
Yes.
it's set for this time, though. It's going to go now.
Which we have to give her direct, she doesn't know if she's wants, which way we want to go with option 1 or option 2.
Oh, I thought
So
it
we
was.
need to make that decision.
Primary difference.
One is hiring a person to be basically the golf course manager. The other one is asking people to submit proposals, kind of like a contractor, and have with ideas
For programming,
for programming.
Is there a
Either-
downside to do both?
either with the golf course or with the green space.
Is there a
area.
downside to do both? And because you might have 0 responses on one versus the other? I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, we could say that make it one posting that says we're going to either do this or this, please submit,
I think
either an application or a proposal.
we could at least field the most options at that point, I would think.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that this year was going to go. No
Oh,
matter-
it's going, yeah.
It's going.
This would be in addition to,
Okay,
the impression I am under is that we have the person doing groundskeeping, but if we can get a professional,
Well, and the thing is, it's coming as if it's from council, but I think it's coming from 1 or 2 individuals, right? Because I don't remember giving any impression that we should do that. So I think we have to get unified on what our goal is and at least have a discussion about it.
I think the first time I heard it was when the budget was made, that it was already set the amount for the running it for this year.
No, I'm talking about the additional. I know we're doing it
okay.
this next coming year.
Well, we could run 2 different ads, I suppose.
Or it's one ad that has both options listed in it.
One of
With
the,
the option that we couldn't do anything.
one other idea that I had was maybe hosting, for lack of a better term, an open house for the people that have been members to see what ideas they might have and doing it at the Troubadour on an evening and seeing what ideas they had, what resources, et cetera.
Maybe a Thursday evening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that when the
Yeah, that's when that-
unofficial,
That's when that group plays.
Oh.
The unofficial
yeah,
league
the
is-
The unofficial
yes,
league, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I just know that typically it seems
I-
our golf course opens around St. Patrick's Day. I mean, weather permitting.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense to advertise as soon as possible, if we're going to advertise.
really, what is the difference between these two
well,
proposals?
one is more a position. We would hire somebody to manage the golf course.
Be an operations
The other one is
manager?
more like if you have a really good idea on, a program or, foot golf, frisbee golf, all these things, and somebody's operated that before and would like to come to our golf course. and
That
do it.
seems so nebulous,
That would
and
be-
I think we could get a lot
Well-
of promises that can't be delivered against,
Okay.
you know?
The difference between the two really aren't, I mean, the first paragraph, the Village of Greenhills is seeking a professional to market and run the golf course. The individual will oversee the golf course operation that currently includes one part-time employee.
I mean, ultimately.
The other one, the village is seeking creative proposals to develop, implement unique programming. This individual will oversee the golf course operation that currently includes one part-time employee. I mean, it's,
And then in the second to last paragraph, the first one, the goal is to be well-maintained and increase usage, and the goal in the second one is to offer a variety of golf-related programs at the course with the intent of increasing usage. Those were the only two differences I saw.
You
Yeah.
could combine them into a golf course operations and programs manager. Then that individual would be in charge of not only operations, but also the programming, unless you're wanting to keep it open to various contractors submitting programs.
It sounds like the second one is more someone who isn't going to be doing it as their job, but just someone submitting proposals.
Right.
But
For
how
like a
would they be
one-time-
compensated? And, I mean, right now, I would just look for somebody to maintain the golf course so golf could happen this summer. When you get into the marketing of it, and I went back and looked through recent articles, people are sucking wind when it comes to golf courses right now. And so we could get lots of
What does that mean?
meaning they're not performing well, especially par 3 golf courses. So a lot of golf courses are having a problem of getting people out there. The thing we have to keep in mind is if we locate somebody that says, I have all kinds of ideas for this, are we going to commit budget dollars? And then on what backing do we believe that that idea will work? We've had golf vending machines. There's been a number of approaches, more the kids golf and that kind of thing. So I don't know if we should be shopping for ideas as much as get the golf course open. And then if we can market it through recreation or something else, we should do that.
It does need some marketing together with the pool as well. If something like it would be a together marketing for people to be able to use it on weekends as when they with the families, to be able to bring their families and so forth from surrounding areas of work. But we would need somebody that will have, pictures and, do kind of a brochure type
No,
of thing.
I know, and we can do a brochure, and this is a conversation we've had probably for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
And we had it when Joel was here, and again, I'm not being a pessimist about it, I'm just trying to be a realist on, is there a magic combination that cost us hardly anything to get people in here? I don't think it's an awareness problem. I used to think, well, I had an employee that actually lived in Greenhills, and she didn't even know that we had a golf course, and I thought, well, that's the problem, people don't know about it. I'm not under that impression anymore, but that's just my opinion based on what I'm reading. I mean, I know there's a heart for keeping it open. I think going another year is the right thing to do at this point. But for you guys that are very pro finding people, delegating time for Yvonne to drive revenue, increased revenue for this, what do you guys have to say?
I mean, how many more things do you want to shut down?
Well, it's not a question of that. If they're not making money and they're costing money and no one's using them, especially residents.
No, I mean, I think it needs to be used, but, I mean, and I disagree with your numbers, because actually, the guy at Winton Woods told me that their rounds were up this year.
Yep, but that's not a par 3, is it?
There's a par 3.
Yes, a par 3.
There's 2 courses there, right
Okay.
next to each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and also up from what, So, I mean, I'd be glad to look at the numbers. I can grab what I read and we can compare notes. But right now, we've had very, very low attendance. It's costing us money. And it's not a question of wanting to shut it down. I wish it flourished,
I mean, I think you've got to have a quality product for people to want to use.
I agree with that.
And through no fault of Mike and the service department, the golf course just wasn't in very good shape. And
Prior to that, it was in good shape, though, and we still didn't have the numbers.
actually, when Joel left, the golf course was heading in the right direction as far as number of rounds played and condition of the course and
Right, I agree on the
financially.
condition of the course.
And then he left, and this will be, what, the 3rd summer since
Yes.
he's left?
Yeah.
And we need to find somebody with the skill set that Joel had to get it back going that direction, I believe.
Well, I think I don't know how we resolve this, but if it was in perfect shape, I have my doubts that it could not be a money drain when we're, concerned about how we give raises and do other things in the village. I mean,
How much is a money drain to you?
That's, I don't even think relevant right now. I mean, me giving you a number. You could say, well, we want it to be like the pool to break even, but there's a lot more people that use the pool than they use the golf course, by far. Is that correct?
That's true, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And there is some historic significance to the pool versus not for the golf course. Is that true?
I don't want to get into
I
a
don't-
debate
No,
about what's
no.
historically
No, it's not-
significant or
no,
not in
it's
this
not
town.
The golf course has always struggled.
Right, but also from
Compared
a
to the pool,
history
the pool has
standpoint, the pool has the building that is historical and original. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, sort of original.
Parts of it.
Parts of it.
Parts of
Well,
it.
right, it's been modified, I understand that. I'm not saying that's the only thing, it's just that we need a real honest discussion about it. Instead, what I feel is happening is we're moving down the path of pushing Yvonne to advertise for additional marketing and stuff when we haven't discussed it and come to a resolution that I think we could have a debate. Maybe it's retreat's too late, though. So I don't know how we do that. Special meeting, what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, that was part of the reason we were doing the recreational survey was to get further input.
You know what, though? We've done surveys in the past, and I'm not anti-survey, but there's a lot of people that, do you want a golf course? They'll check yes. If you start to calculate that out, what's it cost? Will you actually use it? People on a survey can check yes very easily. So I don't think that the survey will save or break the golf course, in my opinion.
I do think this survey will give better information compared to the previous survey that I looked at. The last one compared desirability versus usability, like usage of the actual facilities, and this one gets more into that utilization.
Right,
So I think
and I'm not saying it's not a
ultimately we're gonna
quality
get-
survey. And we are trying to make sure it's not going door to door to everybody right now at this stage, right?
Right.
So that's one factor. And the other thing, at one point, there was talk about giving free golf. If you remember, Joel came back and said, hey, I've got a way where we can make it free for the entire village. I still have my doubts if we made it free, that there's that many golfers that would utilize it in the village. And it's not been that huge of a draw outside the village, as far as I can tell, compared to the pool. So, it's not that we want a patch of weeds over there either. You know, that's why I'm fine with keeping it open this summer. It's just that the whole marketing thing it's a little crystal ball-like. It's hard to prove that you're going to have a magic pill that's going to turn it around. That's my opinion, but I'd much rather have an open discussion like this rather than giving individual direction to the municipal manager without discussing it with the rest of us.
I agree.
I agree, and one of the things that would help having a more focused discussion would be if we knew how much either of these would cost us. Because right now, it just says it would cost us more than the $40,000, but how much are we looking, would the individual be a full-time individual, how much would they be making per hour? Would this individual be a part-time person, how much would they be making per hour? You know, just ballpark numbers, general ballpark numbers, so we can have the financial side along with the utilization. And maybe we do wait till February, but if that's the case, it would need to be our first meeting in February to have the work session solely, you know, that to be on our agenda. I just know we need, if we are going to hire someone, getting it done sooner rather than later would give them more of a chance for success.
Well, define it when you say getting it done, because this is talking more about marketing, correct? Because aren't we committed that we need somebody to get the golf course open and do as good as possible job so that it's quality greens and so forth?
Yeah, my feeling is we're looking for a person who's pretty well versed in running a golf course, because we have high expectations of them being able to do everything. So from that end, I am thinking it's gotta be a full-time position, and it probably won't be cheap. You know, to try to, we've done this repeatedly, and it's been difficult to get somebody, but I think we'd have to look at a good salary. We have to make them want to come here, because there's reasons why they wouldn't want to come here. But if the salary's desirable, then they want to come here, kind of thing, you know, so. But I just put the salary would be, you know, commensurate with their experience, so that we could leave that open right now and evaluate if we get the right candidate, would it be worth it to pay the price?
And then some of it is, would it be, again, an employee of the village, or would it be a contractor of the village, depending on what they bring to the table?
Yeah, I think we would just have to evaluate that
'Cause-
again based on what we get.
I don't want to limit it, because I know when Joel ran it, he was a contractor. Whereas if we say we're going out for an employee, that's a completely different person.
If we find somebody, wouldn't the cost, would it necess, and I'm just gonna throw out, let's say the person costs $10,000 for the summer. Wouldn't the 40,000, the number, the 40,000 number, wouldn't that number be sufficient or be used to pay that 10,000?
Yeah, I guess I took this to be a person in addition to the grounds care person we already have, who is a part-time.
I would think that if we find somebody for this, that they, just like when Joel was running it, they would do a lot of that work. I mean, I would hope that we would be able to find someone that had a similar skill set as Joel, that had some marketing also.
Again, though, let's say that individual is out there, you could easily come to us, and Joel did too, and I'm not faulting him for this, but you could make all kinds of promises for 1 year. I could say, yes, I can turn it around.
The police chief's gonna make a promise to us for what we're gonna get for public safety this year, so is the fire department.
I'm saying that we are gonna have to make a decision based on some promises. And right now, I don't think the momentum is with getting a high-profile person, unless they're trying to do it for a year or two, to come to a par 3 golf course and turn it around to the level that it will pay not only for what's going on there now, but, you know, growth into the future. I think it's a stretch.
And I also think it is tough to get somebody with all of the skill sets that we're probably looking for. They tend to either be like grounds management folks or
Marketers.
pro golfers who know the golf game really good. But it's tough to get the combination, I think. I just looking
Yeah.
at other job ads and,
Joel probably had the best combination of that for the most part, right? I mean, he
well,
had
but
a
I think he
program.
relied a lot on other individuals to help with the grounds care portion.
Yeah, he had a good network of people
Oh,
that
okay.
says, I got this problem on this green, would you stop over and look at it, and what do I spray on it, or whatever. Yeah, he had a good.
So, yeah, I think the combination will be tough. That's why if we were leaning more towards the operational, marketing, that kind of a person, I wasn't sure we'd want to get rid of our grounds care person right now, because we're gonna need somebody to be cutting grass and, you know, doing that kind of
And
stuff.
that current grounds care person is someone on the service department now, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Just because they have to be in a department, so
Right.
yes.
All right, well, do we want to then discuss this any further in the next council meeting? Even though the survey won't be finished by then, is there a way to check the numbers to see how it looks? Or
Dave, can we clarify one thing, just because I think there was a little bit of a difference of opinion? I heard two things. One, that this was, from your point of view, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a groundskeeper and someone that had somewhat like Joel, groundskeeper and had the marketing capabilities, or what is it? Is it supposed to be two separate people or one person, or we're just casting it and see if we can find that one person that does both?
I was reading it as we were keeping the part-time employee who was focused solely on grounds care. This is for an additional person to do the other part.
And that budget amount then that we're looking at here is in addition to the current groundskeeper?
That's how I read it. I read that this
Same.
40,000 was dedicated to all the other stuff that we currently have, and that the new person would be in a new expenditure, is how I read it.
So if we
Is that correct?
if we know what we want from that standpoint now, we might be able to get to a quicker resolution. I mean, do you think and I'm okay. Don't make it make this into me thinking I don't think that golf, I would love for the golf course to flourish. I actually thought if we could get expertise, bring a professional in to specialize in the short game, that might be a drawing card, but you'd have to get a big enough name so that people actually did show up. So it's not against the golf course, it's just that I feel like we could be at the same crossroads we were with Joel, and that didn't produce what was promised originally. And there's a lot of forces working against that. So, for us to throw another person onto a groundskeeper at this stage of the game, I mean, do we think that will pull it out of the hole? And if you guys can say with a lot of confidence, I'll go along and support it. But right now,
I will say that what I kind of am thinking is that if we do something, maybe we need to do it soon, but maybe we need to have a greater discussion on what do we need to see and when are those benchmarks do we need to see them by, and actually set more of a timeline for us that kind of sets the limits. Like, okay, we need to see
This
the
happening
utilization
by-
used
Yeah.
go up, or we need to see something by certain times and stick with those times. Because I think sometimes we haven't really done that. We've said we want the golf course to flourish.
very abstract.
We want it to go forward, but we don't say, and this is what you have to achieve for that to happen. This is what we need to see for it to continue. So I think maybe the short conversation is, do we go forward with getting a person or someone to run the golf course, in which direction are we looking at? And then the long term is, what kind of goals do they have to reach? And that might be the bigger discussion, but for the short term, what do we want to do? And then if we have the discussion at the retreat, that's not too late, as long as we've done the short term portion of it. But then at the retreat, we can flesh out more of what our expectations are for the golf course, if we want to keep it open, and how to keep it open, and what things we have to see for that to happen.
I mean, I think that's a good way to
I
say
think
it.
the long term of the reality of it, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Dries, but it's not something that we can decide, well, we put it on hold for 2 or 3 years. Once that we made a decision, it's irrevocable, because to bring back the greens, the golf course back, 5 years from now, when we find the money that we don't have to pay on the debt and the non-voted debt that we have, and we would be able to put it into that, it would be insurmountable to prepare those greens to bring it back. I would not be able to do it. So we got to really be very careful what are going to be our wish, because it's not just going to be 1 year or 2 years. No, we're making a decision in general for the future.
And I think that's why it's open last year and this year, for sure. The other thing, just to put on the table to think about, and I'll be done with it for now, is I think we have to look at resident value. So how many residents get to use it? And can we count those on 2 hands? And then, but I don't want to take away resident value for those that back up against the golf course. It's much nicer to be up against a golf course than, something that might be less attractive.
Coyote retreat.
So, but I mean, we have to look at usage, and when, especially when we ask for police levies and do this and say we need this money to operate well, we have to lay it on the table and say, if you're not using it, are you okay spending this money here and not elsewhere? So, maybe the survey will capture that, maybe not, so it's something we keep kicking it down the road, and I'm okay, because like you said, it's going to be a hard thing to change back. And
Once the decision is made, it will not be reversible. Let's put it that way.
Well,
It depends on what the decision is.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, but I'm saying,
Why don't we have Yvonne advertise for an individual to operate the golf course? And because it's gonna take a while to get that out, a while to get responses back, and then we'll have a better feel when we get some responses back, hopefully before the end of February.
Well, and we might get some new information from them too. You might have somebody that does have a really good idea.
And I would like it to be open to not just an individual, but if it was someone who had a company or something and they had a proposal like Swim Safe or, you know, just so we're not limiting to a person, but we would, I mean, it would be great if we
That's
had
actually
Golf
why
Safe.
I like the second one
Yes.
a little bit better, because it gives in proposals that we can take a look at and expand to a little bit more than that.
Yeah, so Golf Safe, yes.
Yeah, you're thinking like the swimming pool, the swim safe,
Yeah.
just to have an organization that would just come and do X amount of work, and go away and do some
Well,
work some other.
and that's one of the reasons Swim Safe works is because it's economies of scale. They're not just doing it for Little Greenhills, they're doing it elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
Okay, is everybody in agreement with that then? All right,
That's fine.
all right. We have anything else to discuss?
I have one thing to discuss. For the council meeting calendar, I propose that we cross off December 24th today. And make December 10th the regular meeting.
Oh, I would go along with
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Yep, we have to wait for Santa Claus.
Let's not push it down the road when we're pretty much sure
When
we're
we are
not gonna meet
in
on
November,
December.
Thanksgiving, figuring out what to
Yeah.
do. In the same way, did you figure out about Thanksgiving, the 26th
Actually,
of November? Is that going to be a conflict as well?
It's the same week, but it's 2 days before instead of
The
Okay.
the
office
day before. I'm
is closed
fine with the
on
26th.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Right, or no, it's not.
Friday.
Yeah, just Friday, just Friday.
I don't
Okay.
travel for Thanksgiving,
I was
so
gonna say,
it
I don't think the
doesn't bother
26th will
me,
be an
but
issue.
If anyone
Yeah.
else does and you want to propose that, we could always move it to the first or third Tuesday of the month if,
I mean, we
Or the
we
28th.
met on that
Yeah.
Tuesday
Yeah.
this year. so-
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, scratch December
Scratch December
24th.
24th.
Get that out there early so we're not all counted absent.
yep,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Tony?
You're
Not
the
a
only
meeting,
crazy
so I
person
can't be
that
absent
traveled
to it.
that week, so.
I do not go out with the amateurs.
I just wanted to mention, I've already mentioned it to Yvonne and other people on council, but residents have come up and said that there are some issues with the waterworks and their contractors.
Yes.
We are aware of it. We have made each of us and our police force aware of it, and we'll be contacting the waterworks to let them know the issues that we're having. So just put that out there so it's public record in the minutes. We do know that these things are going on and we're trying to take care of them.
And they're also having problems with electricity. The F section was out of electricity 2 times during the past week.
Well, that may have been, I don't know what the reason was,
Okay.
but that may have been because Cincinnati Bell is digging up the F section, putting in fiber optics cable, and I'm guessing they hit the electric.
They did
Because
not
they're-
call before digging.
Well, no, they did, but, but there's,
In defense of contractors, it's not always where it says it is.
right,
Very
you
true.
wouldn't believe the maze of wires that I saw
Yeah.
over
Very
there
true.
today, sticking all over the ground, and they were
Okay.
standing there scratching their heads looking at it.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Because it's
especially
got
close
both
for them
old-
because they're putting it next to the
Yeah.
utilities. They don't have to go away from them. They're putting it next to the
Right,
utilities.
and part of the
So-
problem in a lot of the underground section is when they come out to mark them, they'll sometimes mark the old line and not the new electric line, because we have all new electric lines in those areas. But they left all the old ones, which shouldn't show up, but they occasionally do. So, and I would encourage residents also that in this water project area, we put the name of the contact person at the waterworks out, and they should call the waterworks too and let the waterworks know that they're not happy about their project. And of course, they could, I remember some of the old days when people complained about Duke and some of that kind of stuff, and you talk to the people on the job site, well, do they want electric or not? You know, so,
Yeah.
Do you want to get paid or not?
right. So, you know, they're doing us, the residents a favor, not a favor, by giving us water. Except I do relate to the fact that the amount of water and sewage bills that the residents pay in Greenhills they're paying more than what it costs us to run the police department. So, that's my spiel. Anything else? Do we want to go into executive session?
Yes.
Do we?
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the compensation of public employees.
Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Excuse me. Mr. Dries. Mr. Halter.
Aye.
Ms. Hermes.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Metz.
Aye.
And Ms. Wallace.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we do not plan to take action after the executive session.
See you.